knowledge and talent to support mission-driven entrepreneurs to scale their ventures. One of our primary focuses is to support startup aspirants and early entrepreneurs to enable them to build a business by providing them market orientation through programs and events. The webinar today, the 100 Days Journey from Innovation to Entrepreneurship, is focused on mindset of an entrepreneur and their journey in the initial 100 days to turn an innovative idea into a successful venture. Let me take this great opportunity to introduce our panelists today. We have Mr. Phanindra Sama, founder of Redbus, who started his startup journey in a bus. He created a revolutionary startup, as most of you know. We also have Mr. Benjamin Mathew, current president of RTKIC at Deshpande Startups, who focused 20 years of his career focused on rural transformation. Without further ado, I open the platform to Mr. Ben to take this forward, introduce the panel, and start the webinar.
Thank you, Anisha. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, and a warm welcome again for all the participants. I would definitely say budding entrepreneurs to the session. It's an interesting journey, and we just want to take it forward, how the entire mindset looks like. For that reason, we have got the right person into place, Dr. Phanindra Sama. I had to really look at how I need to explain. So I have written down the entire document of how I need to introduce you. So let me just read it out, his accolades from the past, and this should be a starting point for how I introduce him to all of you. Phanindra Sama is a very successful entrepreneur and founded, spearheaded, and scaled successfully the most famous Redbus startup. He has been a youth icon entrepreneur and an inspiration to many, many budding entrepreneurs that is going to come. Funny, as we call him, has been working with Telangana government to spearhead the T-Works initiative and supported and mentored many other innovations. Currently, he's working with Westbridge Capital, where he's guiding, investing, mentoring startups to scale their businesses. A brilliant personality, a great entrepreneur. We have a lot of things that we can learn from him. And these achievements that he has done at a very young age would be a real inspiration for us to move forward. So I welcome right now Phanindra Sama to this panel, and I hope I did justice to the entire introduction per se. So let me just start quickly with some of the directions that everybody wants to listen from you. Is that okay? So how did Redbus got born? I mean, what is the starting point for you?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thanks for that introduction. So yeah, going back to the Redbus journey, I mean, it started in Diwali of 2005. So I was in Bangalore, came here for a job, and my parents are in Hyderabad. So I used to take buses to go back to Hyderabad frequently. And so every time I needed a bus ticket, I just called up the bus operator, and the bus operator could get me a seat. The agent, and he could get me a seat. But during the Diwali of 2005, when I called him, he said he couldn't get me a seat. Then I went to his office and asked for a ticket. Then he said he couldn't get me. And then he asked me to go to another agent. And that's when it intrigued me. Like, if he's an agent, he should know whether or not there is any seat which is going vacant from Bangalore to Hyderabad. Why is he asking me to go to another agent who is his competitor? Right? I mean, it just stayed with me. Then I went to this other agent. He also couldn't get me a seat. So I ended up being in Bangalore for that long weekend. But the next day I woke up and that question intrigued me. Like, why is that one agent, like for airline ticket, right? If you go to an agent, he'll be able to tell you whether or not there is any seat because he has access to the entire inventory. Whereas bus wasn't computerized, and hence it wasn't, the information wasn't available with all the agents. So some agents would have some operators, other agents would have contact with other operators, and etc. Looking at that, it immediately stuck to me saying, hey, why can't we computerize this thing? Just like airline tickets or even railway ticket. By then IRCTC was computerized. The Indian Rails was computerized. So I said, why can't it be like that? So that's how it is born. So then we started creating a software which would get all the bus operators onto one platform.
That's really very interesting. So how do you really know? What is the spark? Is it that you really looked at the problem, or did you face it yourself? Therefore, it came to as an idea.
Yeah. So we were accidental entrepreneurs. So we didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. We didn't know anything actually. It just by chance that I didn't get a bus ticket, and then I asked these questions to myself, and I found a gap. I said, "Hey, this will be awesome if we have a platform like that." And interesting thing is, we didn't even know software. Like I was working for Texas Instruments, where I was actually designing chips, so I knew a few things about voltage, current, and etc. But I didn't know anything about Java, databases, and etc. So it's just that we felt, hey, if we have this solution, it'll be awesome. And then we went and learned how to write software. So we bought books on writing software, and we built it out from there. The spark is, I think, a problem and a solution which consumes you. Like when I saw the problem and had a solution in my mind, it just consumed me. It just pulled me into it, saying, hey, it'll be awesome to create it. Right. And actually, we were creating it as an open source solution. We were not creating it as a for-profit business. So it is the problem and the solution and the benefit to the community, right? I mean, which pulled us, right? I mean, we didn't even think it was a business. We wanted to create open source solution and put it out there, and we thought people would use it, and etc. and all. So that's how it started. Yeah.
That's really very interesting. I mean, for many entrepreneurs, the starting point would be just like that only. I mean, it may be just a spark, and how do you really work on it becomes the direction in which you want to take it. And you fairly mentioned very clearly that it has to kind of consume you in terms of why. Is that the right thinking approach?
Okay, so I would say there are two things. Actually, my intention here, because I'm also part of the Deshpande Foundation. So my intention here is that I'm just looking at it like this half an hour or 40 minutes as being like really useful to the people here. I'm not looking at it like I'm here to speak, right? So
Yeah,
I'm like just saying what is practical and etc. and all. I really hope this gives some good practical inputs to you all. So I would say that see, consume you is again, there are various shades of it, right? I mean, one consume you is like you just keep thinking about it, like right? I mean, like, it is good, let's do it, and etc. Or right, it just consumes you in a different way. The consume you that I was talking about is where it gives you that confidence, saying, hey, it's the right thing, right? Like right? I mean, a consume you can also be stress, like stress consumes us. Like it just keeps thinking. I mean, you have a negative feel about it, but it still consumes you, right? Here, the more you think about it, the more it appears like practical, that it is possible, that, hey, this thing works, like this should work. Why isn't it there? Right? So it builds confidence in you. So that is the type of consume you I was talking about.
Oh, that's a really good perspective to think about, not from a very kind of a stress point of view, but from a, it makes sense, and that's a practical solution that we are really looking at.
Yeah, stress or excitement, I would say. I mean, I don't think if you're stressed, you will pursue it, but
yes.
Over excitement, like, yeah. But the consume you should build confidence in you, and not necessarily only excitement.
So what do you think, Funny, would be, most of the guys who are really, starting off with these kind of ideas, how do they kind of really need to sustain it? I mean, you did something, so therefore it really became a practical. So what do you kind of suggest?
Sorry, Ben, could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Saying that this is the starting point for many, and therefore I know your journey is a very important element, and you did sustain from a practical point of view. How did you arrive at? I mean, for most, this idea still be there in their minds. So what do you suggest?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that the biggest part of starting up is actually evaluating your idea. Like, I think the title of this is the first 100 days.
Yes.
So I would say the first 100 days is roughly about 3 months. So I would say the thing that you need to do in the 3 months is really evaluate your idea, whatever idea it is, right? I mean, test it out with customers. I mean, don't even jump into building it, right? I mean, the first 3 months, you do secondary research, you research on internet, you go and talk to people, your potential customers, will they use it? And then there are these things called the mom test. I mean, there is a book and an article called the mom test, like how do you do your research, right? If you go and say, hey, will you use it? People will say, I'll use it. But there are different ways to ask that question so that you know, you get the right insight, right? So that is one thing. And the second thing is go and ask people who are in the startup space, right? I mean, other founders or people like you, Ben, right, who run a incubation center and would have seen like hundreds of startups, ideas, and etc. So if I were starting up, I would like come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking of this. What do you think? Right, and let you shoot all the questions so that I get to evaluate my idea, how strong it is, how weak it is. See, I think one thing that we all need to probably internalize is we are not here married to that idea, right? I think we should be flexible, saying that, I mean, or whatever it is. I mean, you could also be married to the idea, but you need to figure out like, why are you doing what you're doing? I mean, are you doing this because you want this solution to exist? Or are you doing it because you want to build a large business? Are you doing it for whatever reason it is, right? Fame, name, etc. All that is a valid reasons for you to do a startup. Except as long as it's legal, right? I mean, if there is a not a legal way, then that's not valid. But anything, name, fame, glory, money, everything is a valid reason for you to do a startup. But I think you need to think through that thing and internalize and then figure out why are you doing that startup, and that will define everything else for you. Right? All the other answers will come. Like, for example, if you're saying you're doing this because you want to build, let's say, a 5,000 crore business, right? If your objective is to build a 5,000 crore business and hence you are getting into a startup, then the way you will evaluate is, will this startup idea get you to the 5,000 crore business? Right? I mean, because I've been part of the bus industry. I was talking to one of the large successful bus operators a few days ago. So he's very successful. He's like, in the last 10 years, he started with one bus, and then now he has like 500 crore top line and a very good profit. I mean, it's very inspiring, actually. He doesn't have any VC, nothing. He's like started by himself. He's telling me his story of how he started with selling his plot and then buying the first bus. And from there, he's one of the large successful bus operators in India. So we were talking, and then he's saying that he wants to get to, let's say, 10,000 crores. He was saying he wants to become an 8,000 crore company and go public listing and etc., and all that. So it was very inspiring. So I was talking to him, but all that is great. Like, he's a successful guy. He knows how to manage business. He set up his, he has a proof, history, etc., and all that. The only challenge, and he has ambition that he wants to make it 8,000 crore top line from the 500 crore. But the only challenge there is, how big is a market, right? I mean, can by running buses, can you go to 8,000 crore business, right? Then we just sat together and said, hey, let's estimate how big the market is. Then we realized that it's a 20,000 crore business. So the whole bus market in India is 20,000 crores. If the whole bus market in India is 20,000 crores, can you practically get to like 50% of it? Like one operator, can it get to 50% of it? It's not possible. I mean, basically that market doesn't exist, right? So now he can't go back to 10 years back and say, hey, I don't want to be in this business. I want to be in another business, which actually makes me get to 10,000 crores top line, right? So I was just narrating the story because, I mean, that's what will happen, right? I mean, so those are the things that you need to think in your first 100 days, right? Because, I'll tell you in another example. Let's say you want to set up a business, or let me tell it another way. Whatever business you do, it will consume 100% of you. So for this bus operator, it has consumed 100% of his time, energy, intelligence, whatever he had to give it to that bus business for the last 10 years for him to arrive here. He may have sacrificed so many things. Like in these 10 years, he may have kids may have grown up. So many things that a person has sacrificed for it to get here, right? So now let's say you are not in bus business. Let's say you've set up some grocery store, right? You set up three grocery stores, right? Even if you are a businessman who set up 3 grocery stores, it would take everything of you. The grocery store business is as busy as this person who set up like a 500 crore bus business. And this person is as busy as somebody who set up, let's say, Flipkart. So all of them have only those 15 hours a day, and they give all the 15 hours to the business that they are giving to. It will take everything you have, right? It will take every minute you have. It will take every bit of energy you have, maybe every bit of emotion, money, everything, right? And it will take only that much. It can't take more, right? I mean, if you have only 20 hours a day, it can't take more. So just by taking all that, you can end up building 3 grocery stores in the 10 years, or you can end up building a 3,000 grocery stores chain, right? Because it will take only that much. It will take only 20 hours a day. It will take every bit of energy you have. It will take every ounce of this thing that you have, right? So that is another way to look at it, right? Whatever I'm going to start will take everything that I have. Now let me decide what I want to start, because you can't regret 10 years later that, hey, I should have started something else. So that's another way to think about in the first 100 days in evaluating your businesses.
Wonderful, funny. I mean, every story that you mention has an intrinsic belief in terms of what you've thought of does makes practical sense. I think if you have any more kind of stories in that direction, we'd be really happy to kind of hear from you. I mean, and all these entrepreneurs out there are in that 100-day scenario. Starting off, some just in the halfway through. So
yeah.
really
So there are
give them that
many
motivation.
stories. I mean, I have many stories, but I'm thinking, I mean, what will be a good story? So
anything that could be really good would be
okay,
great.
so let me tell you this other story of Nirma. You know Nirma washing powder, Nirma, right? Sorry, just give me, something happened on my computer. Okay, fine. So you know this washing powder, Nirma. So I mean, because we are also talking about tier 2 town context, I think this is a good example. So if you look at Nirma, right? I mean, when it started, the thing is, it did not innovate washing powder. I mean, washing powder existed. Hindustan Unilever had a washing powder, and people were using it. So it was not an innovation. But the innovation there was this gentleman who is the founder of Nirma. He realized that actually washing powder it should not be that expensive. It's just a chemical compound that can be put together, and HUL was selling at a very high price. And whoever was buying HUL was buying HUL. They would not buy Nirma because it's at a positioning is a little lower, right? But he realized that there are so many people at the next economic affordability category that they want to use washing powder, but they don't have access to it. So he just, with that one insight, right? I mean, he started putting together those chemical powders together, packing it, and he was delivering it on his own cycle, door to door, and then built up this business. And like today, it is a 15,000 crore top line business doing about 1,000 crore profit. It does 1,000 crore profit, right? So often when we think of startup, right, we think of internet business, online, innovation, and things like that. But this is a very contrasting example, right? So you needn't be, I mean, what I wanted to say is the innovation needn't always be only in the product. Innovation can be in business model, in pricing, in the category it caters to, right? So, like that, there are so many case studies. I think just reading about these case studies, having an interest in studying about this will give a lot of ideas on how to evaluate a business, like what business we should be in, and what strategies to practice when you're in that business, right? I'll tell you another example. Boat headphones. Right, Ben, I think you're muted. I'm not able to hear you if you're talking. Okay, fine. Another example is this Boat headphones, right? Today, Boat headphones has the largest market share in headphones in India. Very young company, and when it entered headphones, it's not like there were no headphones. I mean, headphones already existed. So many companies were there, and there are these Xiaomi's and so many companies, right? And then household names like I know Samsung, Onida, I don't know. There are like so many companies in that market. Boat is a startup which enters, and today it is a market leader. And recently I was reading about their case study. So there are 2-3 things that really made them what they are. So the first thing is a market existing, creation of a market. So how did the market get created? I mean, creation of demand. So the market got created because the phone manufacturers stopped shipping headphones. So until then, people were shipping headphones in the phone, and they stopped shipping. And just because they stopped shipping, market won't get created, right? So the market got created also because suddenly the data rates have fallen down with Jio and all these things, and people started consuming entertainment, YouTube, where the audio was important, music, and etc. and all that, right? So right, I mean, phone manufacturers are not shipping that, and then people had this need to listen to audio. So suddenly a large market got created, and in that market, these guys entered. Of course, they were existing players. Now, how did these guys win? Both. So they won because they entered that, and then they looked at the price points, right? A premium headphones are this. Then all the other headphones were at a very low price. There was nothing between low price and a high premium. So they just looked at the market research, looked at the price point, then they placed their boat in between these two, and did a lot of influencer marketing by movie stars, right? So when the pricing is this, and then your position is like that, have great movie stars and influencers talk about it and big advertisements, suddenly it took off, right? So it is just your like marketing strategy, your pricing strategy at the right market, being in the right market. So these things play into your success. So that's another way to think about it. You can think about, hey, what are the markets that are getting created around? And let me jump into it. And when I jump into it, of course, there'll be competition. If there is a market, there'll be competition. Now look at your competitors and say, hey, what can I do different? Right? And then you can just take the market. Right? And there are several stories like this for market creation. Like a story that I think of is Lulu supermarkets. I don't know if you know Lulu supermarkets, which is in the Middle East, right? So, I mean, it's a fantastic success story. It is what it is. I mean, it's basically a store like Big Bazaar, and it's a supermarket store in the Middle East. But they are the largest and the most successful guys. They are what they are because what happened was, I mean, if you go to the 80s, I think, I mean, that's when I think Lulu was started. Just around that time, oil was discovered in Middle East. When oil is discovered, it created a lot of jobs. And a lot of people started migrating into Middle East, Indians, others, and etc. And all that. When they migrate there, they had a need for like buying the same parachute oil and the Indian processed food and things like that and all. And who will cater there? Suddenly there's a market that is created. So many migrants, there is a need for something that doesn't exist. In that wave is when Lulu was established. And because there is a market, they could just ride that thing. And that's how they became successful. So look for mega trends, look for trends where the market is getting created. That's one way, that's yet another way to evaluate your ideas. And yeah.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I think, Pani, it cannot be better than this. Just a couple of points that you mentioned in between. I think as the emerging ecosystem, you mentioned tier 2 and tier 3 towns as well. So what do you foresee? I mean, is there an idea that can work out? What can be done in that, and what is the emerging trends in that area? If you can throw some light on it.
Absolutely huge market. Right, I mean, tier 2 towns is a huge market, and people who are in tier 2 town has a huge advantage over people who don't stay in tier 2 towns, because the whole economics are different, and etc. So you can't, sitting in Bangalore, I can't get an insight of what are the needs, what markets are getting created, what should be the price points in district headquarters. I mean, I can just come there, spend a week, but it won't give me insight. Living in district headquarters will give you that insight, right? So there are, I think, huge markets that are getting created in tier 2 towns, and it's a very, very big strategic advantage that people who want to pursue that strategy have. Recently, there's this company called Load Share, which raised 300 crores, right? I mean, you can, and what is it? It is in logistics. What do? They probably deliver groceries at home, like a big basket, like the big basket in Hyderabad, in wherever, Hyderabad, Bangalore. I think they do something like that in small tier 2, tier 3 towns. So if they were doing the same thing in Bangalore, Hyderabad, they would not be successful, right? So halfway through, they actually probably started here. Halfway through, they changed their strategy, saying that, hey, I'll go to only tier 2, tier 3 towns and then do it. And Big Basket was not doing it there, and they can't do it there. I mean, the large companies, not necessarily Big Basket, but companies cannot do in small towns, because the whole economics, the way their business is structured, is catering to a 1 crore population town, right? Now, if I come to a small town where there's only 5 lakh population, my whole business model won't work there. So the business model has to be built bottom up from there, from the small town. So Load Share is a big success story as of now, because they raised a large round of funding, and and if you look at, I mean, there is enough on internet on what made them successful. The first thing they would say is because they focused on tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns, right? Another story is this AHA OTT, right? I mean, we all are using OTT, Netflix, Amazon, and etc. and all. So I think about a year ago, this AHA OTT was launched. And when it was launched, I was thinking, my God, there is Amazon, there is Prime, I mean, this Netflix. I mean, what is the need for another OTT? I mean, will it really be successful, right? Today, as the numbers say, they're quite successful. And what is the reason for success? They focus only in one regional language, which is Telugu, right? And because I'm generally interested on some of these things as to why they are successful, like why should they be successful? Because if there is a movie that is getting released, Amazon and Netflix can always bid much higher price for that movie than AHA, right? Which is only a Telugu regional player. But there are credible reasons for their success. So number one reason is if you look at web series, it seems in Amazon or Netflix, there are only like 4 Telugu web series that get released every year. I mean, like 4 or 5, their own production. Whereas in AHA, they are saying every week they will release a new kind of their own production, like 52 weeks, 52 of their own things. Right. So for a Telugu viewer, like if you go to a small town in Telangana, the guy doesn't care about Hindi, English, nothing. He cares about Telugu, and he wants to watch content every week, new, fresh content. And if he's getting it in AHA, he will use only AHA. Doesn't have a need to have Amazon Prime, because he doesn't book on Amazon, doesn't have a need to have Netflix, right? So a killer proposition. So that is one reason why they're successful. The other reason is their pricing, of course, because they don't have all these other language contents, they can be priced competitively. Then the other one is just the focused marketing, right? I mean, they can focus only on that area and etc. and all. And I'm told they're actually amongst the top 3 players. Actually, they are probably the second largest player in Telugu content, and they're only 1 year old or something like that. So they'll rise up, right? And another strategic thing they did is actually co-opting the Telugu movie directors and producers into that business by making them, I think, maybe small shareholders and etc. Now, if I'm a good movie director or a movie guy in Telugu, and I have even like 1% share in AHA, I mean, I would give it to AHA than to give it to somebody else, right? So that is also another excellent strategy. Like when you're thinking of business, because I'm saying in the first 100 days, you need to think of your business. That's why I'm narrating all these strategies so that you can think like, and there are 1,000 other strategies, but you can think of what is giving you that strategic advantage in your business. And you need to have those things for you to be successful, right? Just talking about this co-opting people to your success, right? I mean, some of you may know this payment gateway called Stripe, right? Which is very successful worldwide. I think it's probably like $100 billion company right now. It's like huge. So if you look at why are they successful, like what is so new in payment gateway? Didn't payment gateways exist before Stripe came in? There were payment gateways. In fact, a payment gateway that is launched by Elon Musk himself, which is PayPal, right? I mean, Elon Musk was a co-founder of PayPal before he did Tesla and etc. and all, right? So there was PayPal, which is very popular and etc. And then Stripe came in, and Stripe is today much bigger than PayPal. Right? Why is that? Of course, there are many reasons. One thing is they've had some technology improvements on payment processing and etc. and all that. But another key thing that has really helped them what they are is what they've done is they went and raised angel round, that capital, the funding from all the like significant startup founders in the valley. So once, right? I mean, once you have an e-commerce business and you have invested some small amount in Stripe, you will use Stripe, right? I mean, if the product is not bad, you will use Stripe. So just by using that strategy, right? I mean, you can have a strategic advantage by even in your fundraising, right? You go and raise it from them. And there was some Twitter article. I mean, there was a tweet a few days ago saying that, hey, like Stripe cornered the whole market just by their fundraise, and competitor had nothing to do. I mean, he could not, I mean, he didn't have that strategic advantage and hence he lost out. But yeah, I think all these case studies, we need to think through and figure out our strategic advantage when we are thinking about our business. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I have only one last question left out to kind of really put on, and thereafter I'll open up the audience for any questions that is coming in. So the last question is that, funny, between your time and today, the entire ecosystem has fundamentally changed a lot. Okay, and therefore there's more access to a lot of resources. And how do you feel that this ecosystem is right now able to start anything that is going to start coming up newly? What is your idea?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's amazing where the ecosystem is today. Like, I think there is a lot more confidence because of what has been achieved. There's a lot more talent. There is I mean, today an Indian entrepreneur can do anything, right? I mean, like a startup in Chennai has just raised $5 million. They are building flying cars, right? I mean, it was a fantasy, right? I mean, we probably didn't even see in James Bond movies that cars will fly when there is a traffic jam. But today's entrepreneurs are building it. So, I mean, there is just no limit. The only limit is the boundary of law, right? I mean, don't cross the legal boundary within which you dream, you do whatever, right? I mean, dream big and you'll be able to achieve, because such talent also exists. I mean, when you say you want to make a flying car, you can't do it alone. You need others to help you, and such talent exists in India today.
That is really wonderful, and it's been kind of really interesting to hear from you. I don't want to stop you from kind of right now interacting with the rest of the audience there. So I leave it to the administrator to kind of take on the questions and address it to you.
Sure.
So Hanisha, you want to take on one by questions, or you want to open up the audience?
Sure, there are a couple of questions we have in the chat from our listeners. I'll read out to you, please.
Okay.
So one of the questions, Funny, is that how does one develop that thick skin entrepreneurs need? Especially it is needed in that 100 days, right? Where they hear a lot of no's in that period.
So actually, I would tell you one thing. So it's not about thick skin or even a thin skin. So I would say that it is about the balance. So there's this story that we may have read in the childhood called the Goldilocks principle, right? So Goldilocks principle में क्या होता है कि it's like you can't eat a very hot porridge, neither you can enjoy a very cold porridge, right? The porridge has to be just at the right heat for you to enjoy it, right? So in almost every question that we come across in life, whether entrepreneur or not, right? I mean, this thinking about this principle has really helped me, right? So for example, even in managing, after I set up Redbus, I used to control everything, like this pixel, this color, this button has to be this color, and etc. Because I felt like anything else would be bad, right? So I was a micromanager. And then, right, I mean, there was a backlash. People said, oh, you are a micromanager. Then I left everything to my team saying, hey, you do whatever you want to do. Then also there was a backlash. People came back and said, hey, you don't care about anything that's happening in the company. So what I learned is actually you should neither micromanage nor you should leave it to the team. You should just be at the right level, right? Manage where it is needed and leave it where it is not needed. So right, I mean, the ability, the art of leadership is over there. How do you balance these two, right? Like that, I would say that it's not about thick skin. I mean, don't just go after saying, yeah, entrepreneurs need to have thick skin, so I'll have thick skin. Even if you say it is a bad idea, I will still pursue it, and etc. Then it's a mistake, right? And at the same time, you can't just get offended or this thing every time somebody says it's a bad idea. I think you just internalize that, and internalize that you need to balance these forces, and how well you balance them defines how like happy or successful you would be.
Yes, thank you. So another question from one of our early entrepreneur is that in the first initial days, a lot of startups go into the market to evaluate their idea, to get it validated from early adopters, right? But they always have this lingering fear of getting their idea stolen, or not getting the right feedback, or not getting the right answers. So how do we tackle such situations?
Okay, so it is much, the second one is much easier to tackle. I mean, when you don't get the right suggestion, then you can ignore it. I mean, and how do you know it's the right suggestion? Then you need to take every bit of feedback suggestion that you get, put it down on a paper, think through that, try to connect logic, see whether it makes sense, doesn't make sense. If you have questions, go back to the person and ask the questions until it makes logic. And if there's a point at which it doesn't make logic, you can leave it. I mean, it may not make sense to you because you have not understood it, or because it doesn't make sense at all, right? So if you have not, if it is because you have not understood, go back to the same person and ask the questions until you understand it. But if you reach a level where you feel like, hey, this doesn't make sense, I mean, the person, whatever he's saying doesn't make sense, then you leave it. You can respectfully kind of drop it. But the first question of, okay, will people steal my idea? I mean, was that a question, Anisha?
Yes.
Okay. So still, I mean, I think that many people would have answered it in almost all the forums. I don't think you need to fear that. Uh, uh, there is also this other thing called founder product fit. Usually people say product market fit, right? I mean, your product should have a market fit. But there are also another concept called founder product fit, right? Not every founder can do every business. There needs to be a match, like you're made for that business. Only you can do that business, right? So if there is a great idea, people may copy it. And often people who copy it fail because they don't have the conviction behind that idea, right? I may believe that it's a great idea, but I have the self-doubt after executing it a while. Hey, is it really good? Only a person who has thought through the whole whys, the 5 whys and etc., and build that logic has a confidence, saying that has a conviction to see through that business. And no business is built in 2 years, 1 year. It takes 5 years, 10 years to build a business. In that 5, 10 years, there's a lot of times you will have self-doubt and etc. And people who copy will just give up when they have self-doubt, because you need conviction, deep conviction, to stay with that idea for 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
And they may copy your idea, they can't copy your conviction.
That is, as much as it's the ideas, just the founders who's committed to that idea, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Another question, moving on. How do we bring about a behavioral change in early adopters beyond the tech-savvy early adopters, especially in Tier 2 and rural?
So there are several ways to bring behavioral change. There are several ways to bring behavioral change. I mean, one easiest, if you have the money, is marketing. Right? I mean, you say that this is how it needs to be done, and people will copy it. Like, for example, one behavioral change that I can think of is taking a cab. Right? I mean, like before there was Ola and Uber, like we were not taking a cab. At least I was not taking a cab. Right? And then Ola and Uber came. Just because it came, again, I was not taking a cab. I was taking a cab because it was so cheap. It was as cheap as an auto. Then I said, why would I take an auto? I would just take a cab, right? And then I used it for 1 year or etc. Now now it's a behavior change in me. Now I can't think of going by auto, right? A person who thought, why would I go by a cab? Now changed to always go by a cab, however expensive it is, because you're used to it. It changed the behavior in me. I mean, either marketing or some of these things, and behavior is changeable, right? I mean, all of our behaviors change. So yeah, I mean, please use that weapon of mass destruction very, very morally and ethically. I mean, don't change behaviors to eat processed food, to eat sugary foods, right? Then you're spoiling I mean, you may make a good business, but you're spoiling people's health.
Looks like we are getting a lot of questions from the people here. So we'll go ahead. So what are the steps involved in launching an MVP for a digital business?
Okay, so steps for launching an MVP for digital business. I would say even before launching an MVP, if it's a digital business, then I would say use some free resources, right? I mean, one of the free resources, just go and apply to Y Combinator. If you have a digital business, just go and apply to Y Combinator, which is an incubator, and they will evaluate it. You write down your idea, what you want to do, and etc. And they are seeing like thousands of businesses across the world, and they don't need your product to be there. You can just put your idea, and if they select your idea, then you can be comfortable that, hey, my idea makes sense, and it's free. You don't have to apply anything, pay anything, nothing. Right? So I would say just go and apply to Y Combinator to validate your idea. Apply to Sandbox Startups, apply to any incubator, any business plan, and etc. and all that. It's an easy way to validate your idea by people who are seeing ideas day in and day out, right? And if you have a small product, I mean, you can also nowadays build with no-code tools like Bubble and etc. You can just create MVP very easily. Once you have that MVP, you can actually also do things like launch it on Product Hunt. I mean, because you said digital business, I'm saying all these things. So you can go and launch in Product Hunt. You see what people are saying. I mean, if people are upvoting, not upvoting, and etc. If they have upvoted, they like it, then it's a great validation that your idea is good. So some of those things that you can do to validate.
Sure. So another question, what makes Brian Chesky as an outstanding founder if you compare to other entrepreneurs? So, yeah, to make it more open, right? What makes an outstanding founder? Like this early
Okay, so that I mean, that may differ, and I don't know if I am the right qualified person to answer that question. But I would say, of course, one of the things is have a thirst to learn, because you need like 1,000 things for you to be a successful entrepreneur. And what are those 1,000 things? I mean, you need an ability to think right. You need an ability to self-motivate, like many days, right? I mean, things are not going right. You need to, how do you motivate yourself, right? I mean, it's a habit that you need to build, right? When you don't want to do something, how do you motivate yourself? How do you lie to yourself that, hey, this is going to be great, so let me go and do it, right? How do you build an ability to attract talent? And how do you build an ability to retain talent? You can retain talent only if you are right. I mean, kind, talented, etc. How do you build an ability to learn fast? Because if you're an entrepreneur, now you're not only learning. If you, let's say you are an engineer who became an entrepreneur, you not only have to use your engineering skills, but you also need to use your accounting skills, which you know nothing about, right? What is balance sheet? What is credit? What is debit, right? And you need to quickly learn about marketing. You need to quickly learn about HR, about legal, right? So many things. So you need to have this ability to learn fast. So there are 1,000 things that are needed for you to be a successful entrepreneur. So underlying all these is that ability, that quest, that thirst to learn, right? Be an attitude of ever learning. And if I were to add anything other than that, and I think this is very, very important, is build a habit of optimism. It is absolutely needed for you to be an optimist, for you to be an entrepreneur, right? All of us are on that spectrum. Some of us are pessimists, some of us are very optimists. But again, I would say be the balance, because if you are a pessimist, the first problem that comes to your startup, then you will just leave it. It will appear like everything will vanish, everything will collapse, etc., etc. So you need to just shut down the company right now if you're a pessimist, right? If you ever get that feeling in your startup journey, just remember this: oh, maybe I'm a pessimist. I just need to move a little further towards optimism, and things will be fine, right? But if you're on the other extreme of optimism, like anything may happen to the company, competitors launch, you are still feeling like you will be successful, then you are like maybe extreme optimist. You need to come back a little bit. So I would say being an optimist is another thing that is absolutely needed if you are an entrepreneur.
Yes, it's all about balance, right? Oh, so we have an interesting question here. What are the checklists for entrepreneurs apart from customer or need understanding? Like, what is that few things that founder has to keep in mind?
No, I think it will keep on changing in your journey. I mean, since we are talking about the first 100 days, I think it's very, very important that you have validation of your idea as the big checklist point, right? Mm-hmm. So you may not even have like self-development. I mean, I spoke about how you need to be optimistic, how you need to be all these things in the first 100 days, right? In the first 100 days, the problem is you figure out a problem that makes sense, right? We have seen many examples. Like, I think there are some stories about how Mark Zuckerberg or some of these big Google kind of founders and etc., right? How they were like not as mature to be the CEO of such large businesses when they started that, right? But over time they learned it. But imagine the inverse of that. Let's say they were very good people, very mature, very solid guys, but they had a bad idea. First 100 days would have been zero, right? So, I mean, from those examples I'm saying, I think first 100 days, you just need to get your product and product market fit. It is a bonus if you have all these other characteristics, like, right? I mean, people management, that, this, and etc., and all that self-discipline and things like that. But I would say that, okay, you can pick those up in the next 100 days. You must pick them up at the next 100 days, otherwise it will collapse. But I mean, I'm just taking the Facebook example to make a point here.
Sure. So we have another interesting question here about the current situation. We are seeing a ton of companies getting this high and bloated valuations, right? So what do you bubble of funding will come down, or how is the situation in the ecosystem going to turn? Because recently there have been so many valuations happening.
See, I think another good thing that we can have is we have to eliminate all those that don't matter to us in the first 100 days, right? I mean, doesn't matter, because we are at the first 100 days now, right? When we get to the 1,000 days, when we raise that $1 billion valuation and all, the world may change, anything may happen. I mean, I'm saying like another talent that we need to have is just remove the noise from the signal, right? Focus on what is needed now so that we just move forward. I mean, that's another good characteristic to add to the things that we want to build in as a personal development, I would say.
Okay. So you have been associated with Deshpande Startups for a long period. You have seen the startups functioning in the non-metro and focusing on social entrepreneurship, right? So what's your opinion about social entrepreneurship? Do you have any special example who became a successful social entrepreneur?
Yeah. All of us are social entrepreneurs. I'm a social entrepreneur at Red Bus. I mean, I know what is a social entrepreneur, right? If social entrepreneur is an entrepreneur who builds something for society. Yes, at Red Bus, I build things for society. So I'm a social entrepreneur. Right? I mean, right. And if you don't build something that is useful to the society, then you're not, I mean, you won't be successful. So only when you build something, because you can't force people saying, hey, you need to buy bus tickets here, right? Only when it is useful to them, only when they find it as a good positive impact on their lives, they will use it. So I think everybody is a social entrepreneur. So it is not very different from other entrepreneurs. I mean, or I may be ignorant. I haven't really researched on what is social entrepreneurship, but I always felt like, hey, am I anti-social entrepreneur or what when doing Red Bus?
I think definitely you're social entrepreneurs, because we see people every day using Red Bus, right? Yeah. Since go ahead with one last question before moving on. So the next question is that how can a non-technical founder go forward or move forward with an idea that has technology expertise? I think it also focuses on what kind of team that founder has to build, because it's not a solo journey and it's going to be a hard journey for them. So what kind of team he has to build in that first 100 days?
Yes. I think it's a very good question. So we have discussed the example of AHA OTT, right? So what have they done? They have got all the Telugu movie directors and etc. to co-opt into that business. Their success is also because of those guys, that talent, right? So I would say that you think from those lines. What did Stripe do? Stripe got all the people who will be useful to them onto the cap table, right? So I think you should look at it from that perspective. I mean, we can't build a business without involving different talents and different these things into our business. So if you're not a tech founder, no problem, but please look for those bright tech people. And now the question is only bright tech people sufficient? Like, then should I look at computer science, 10 CGPA, etc., or something else? So I would say that, okay, over there you have a minimum qualification where, okay, bright needn't necessarily be grades. Bright is right. I mean, bright as per your own definition. But I would say that go beyond that. in your core team, right? I mean, look for people who you can like open up your heart and speak, right? Where you have respect for each other, right? Where you like something in them that you respect, and mutually, where they like something in you that they respect and admire, right? So it may be anybody. Like in Redbus, I would say, like the team members that I had, none of them had the skills that they were doing. Like the person who was my CTO and co-founder at Redbus, he's never written software ever before. I mean, of course, he was in the technology field, but he's not written. Our product guy at Redbus, who's joined us, right, who is now the co-founder of Koo, the Twitter, Indian Twitter, Mayank. So Mayank was like never a technology product manager ever before he joined Redbus, right? Right. So like that, all our senior management, they didn't do what they were doing at Redbus earlier. But they're people who we connected at a person level, where we could open up our heart, talk to each other, where I respected Mayank for what he has, not necessarily the skill, right? And maybe he respected me too. I mean, he wanted to hang out with me, I wanted to hang out with him. So I think those things are valuable, but at the same time, it can't be a friend circle, because you also need that rock solid talent or whatever skill and this thing, intelligence to build products, right? So I would say it's again a balance between those two, but I would give this also a big weightage. I mean, you just can't have bright people who you can't talk to each other.
Yeah. So balance between expertise and companionship accompanied with respect.
Yeah, yeah. And now Anisha is thinking, oh, it's so easy to be a speaker because, right? Often the questions are, hey, should I do this or should I do that? Right? If I just say it's balance, then we can become a speaker in any forum, right? Any question they ask, we say it is neither this nor that. You just have to be in between. So you caught me.
Because most of your answers were, for example, you were saying there should be a balance between optimism and pessimism, and also balance between companionship and expertise. So I'm just borrowing the words from you.
Yeah, it's just that. I strongly personally believe in that. It's always about balance. It's not neither this nor that. But it is about the art of balancing. Like, where do you draw that line? Right? If you get that wrong, then it's a problem.
Yes. So we have more questions, but I think we'll take it up later probably. As part of next, so we have Dr. Aravind, CEO of Deshpande Startups.
Hi, Aravind.
Yeah. So he's a purpose-driven innovation strategy leader with experience spanning about 25 years in R&D, innovation, business, and so much more, entrepreneurship, MBA. So he has devised and
Anisha, enough.
There's so much to tell about you, Aravind. So yes. To put it in a short way, he was a strategy leader who put up so many driven programs, billion-dollar driven programs. So welcome, Aravind. We would like to hear a few words from you.
Thank you, Anisha. Such a pleasure, funny to see you, meet you, interact with you, listen to you. You know, when I was listening, it is like listening from a, evolved, enlightened Buddha. Always
oh my God.
Always smiling. You spoke about balance. Balance is a philosophy of Buddhism. And I see that, coming out of you so naturally, so eloquently, so much to learn. And all of us, we learn so much. I think it's not only useful to the aspiring entrepreneurs, young aspiring entrepreneurs, but also to those who are into the journey of growth and becoming a established, successful entrepreneur. Of course, you had so many insights and nuggets and experiences, examples, all the way from Nirma to Stripe, very, very innovative, but also traditional businesses. So, but one thing that comes out very strongly, funny, is that there is a tremendous possibility and opportunity in tier 2, tier 3 places. This is the big market that is awaiting to be unleashed. And what you are trying to do in Kakatiya Sandbox, create the ecosystem for entrepreneurs and other development activities. And similarly, here you are part of very closely associated Deshpande Foundation. So we have Deshpande Startups. So my appeal and request to all those who are listening to us, please leverage the infrastructure, leverage the capabilities, and all the support that we have, and have people like Funny, Dr. Deshpande, and many, many others. So let me thank you for accepting to do this particular session and making it so insightful and engaging, Funny. Hope to see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Arvind. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Funny. Once again, it cannot be more mesmerizing than talking to you, and you have done that journey. So it's really great to talk to you, and look forward to kind of meeting you sometime. Definitely.
Sure. Thanks everyone, and all the best.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So almost at the end of this session, now I request my colleague Snehal Dikshit to offer the vote of thanks.
Hi, Anisha. Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible. Can you confirm if I'm audible?
Yeah.
Yes, Snehal.
Thank you. In our daily lives, we must see that it is not happiness that makes us grateful, but the gratefulness that makes us happy. With this quote by Albert Clark, I, Snehal, on behalf of Deshpande Startups and the entire team of EDGE program here together, would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone. On behalf of the entire team, a very heartfelt gratitude to our speaker for the day, Mr. Phanindra Sama. Thank you for sharing your valuable thoughts. I'm sure participants today would have want to start their innovation, have been enlightened with a lot of valuable information. Thank you once again, Pani. I hereby extend my gratitude to our moderator for this webinar, Mr. Benjamin Mathew. I also would like to thank Mr. Aravind Chinchure for sparing us some time and addressing the gathering. I thank the DS leaders and DS team for taking some time from their busy schedule and being part of our event today. A huge gratitude to the participants who have joined us virtually from across different backgrounds. I'm sure you guys have had a great time learning during this session. It's a pleasure to have all of you. Thank you again. Last but not the least, we are fortunate to have our Deshpande family as a rock-solid foundation. I thank each one of you for joining us today once again. Thank you one and all. Thanks a lot, Anisha.
Yes, thank you, Snehal. With this, we conclude the webinar today.